There comes a moment on every transformation journey, whether you're healing something in your life or realigning with the highest level version of yourself, where you are going to hit an upper limit. And when that happens, not only does the mental energy get turned up, and we begin to experience a lot of fear, worry, and doubt, but our body also responds and our nervous system gets activated and all the alarm bells start sounding. Danger. Because when we are breaking through one of our upper limits and trying to move beyond what is safe, comfortable, and familiar, our system is going to recognize that as survival threat. And so, in order to truly break through this upper limit, we have to not only learn how to manage the mental energy and work with the feelings and the thoughts and the stories and the narratives and the old limiting beliefs, but we also have to learn how to regulate our nervous systems and feel safe in our body. And this is what I want to talk about today. Welcome back, everybody, to week number 5 of our realignment journey. This week, we are talking all about nervous system regulation and building capacity. This is one of the key components that is so often not talked about or just glazed over when we are talking about how we truly quantum leap our lives, elevate our consciousness, and step into a higher level version of ourselves. Because we can do all the belief work we want, all the visualization, all the positive thinking, all of it. We can work with our emotions. But if our body and our nervous system does not feel safe in holding a container for this new identity or this new way of showing up and being, these new beliefs about ourselves, we are never going to be able to hold it, because the discomfort that we will experience in our bodies and in our nervous system, which manifests as fight, flight, fawn, or freeze symptoms, will create a dynamic where we are constantly in this tug of war between head and heart. And it makes it so difficult because there's a tension there that happens. And so, even if we can move ourselves physically and mentally into this new space, we won't be able to actually hold it without effort. It will feel like we're efforting all the time, and we won't feel comfortable or safe in our bodies. There will be a lot of discomfort present all the time. And so, the real skill set that we are going to be embarking on this week is getting comfortable with discomfort, because that's truly what it takes to be able to learn to be in our bodies and feel safe in our bodies so that our nervous system does not create that survival response constantly. So today, I really wanted to talk about why this phenomenon happens and how we can move through this. The most important thing to understand is that whenever we start working on our belief systems and we start reinforcing new beliefs about ourselves and we start taking aligned action in new ways to show up in the identity of somebody that we are stepping into, this new version that we are stepping into, our body is going to register that as unfamiliar and unknown, which equals danger. And so it creates that autonomic alarm that sets our nervous system into protection mode. And this manifests for many of us as fight or flight, which creates that urgency and restlessness in the body and kind of prepares us to fight or flee. Or it can also move us into more of a freeze state, which is a combination state of the sympathetic energy of the fight flight, and then also some of the parasympathetic, the down and in energy, where we kind of get into an immobilized state where we don't feel like we can take action, even though the urgency and restlessness is still there in our body. Now, some of us, depending on our previous experiences and belief patterns, can move into that fawn state. And that is a similar state to freeze, where it's kind of the deer in the headlights. And it's where we start abandoning ourselves and our own needs to meet the needs of others as a way to get our needs met or to be accepted as part of the quote unquote tribe. So when these protective patterns start playing out for us, our body gets very uncomfortable. It's a dysregulated state. And this is when so many of us become very reactive in our lives. And it truly does feel like an overwhelmed state where we just start doubting and questioning and having all this fear and making impulsive decisions and acting out in ways that aren't in alignment with the vision we have for ourselves. And for some of us, we just stop taking action altogether and we abandon our vision for a more elevated self, or we just start slipping back into old patterns of behaviors or old belief systems that don't serve us. And this is so frustrating because this is why so many of us have tried and tried time and time again to make positive changes in our lives and feel like in some way we have failed. Now, any attempt at moving into a new identity or an elevated consciousness, of course, is not a failure. But we can interpret it that way if we feel like we've hit this kind of upper limit before and we haven't been able to successfully move through. And this is the moment when most people quit. This is the moment where we hit that growth edge, it gets uncomfortable, and we immediately go back to what feels safe, familiar, and comfortable, which is all the stuff and all the ways of being and thought patterns and all of the things that we're actually wanting to move away from. And so, in order to be able to learn how to not only regulate our systems, but also be physically in our bodies in order to reduce that mental energy and really be present in the moment so that we can create that safety and orient ourselves into right now and be able to move through this barrier, this wall, this upper limit, whatever you want to call it. It is an upper limit in our minds or a limit in our body. It's kind of like when they talk about titrating in your nervous system, where it's like, you feel comfortable here, but the minute you move here, it feels uncomfortable and the alarm bell sounds. So we go back. We have to be able to titrate ourselves up and build capacity in our systems to be with and hold the new beliefs, the new identity, and to be able to take action from a state of a new belief system about ourselves without our bodies immediately kicking us into dysregulation. And this, I don't think it's talked about enough, because when we get dysregulated and we don't feel like we have full capacity to create space and make new choices or even to be present with ourselves, because a lot of those automatic old programs just immediately start running and they become very loud for many of us, impulsively make us want to stay small or go back to what feels more familiar. And then we tell a story about ourselves that we can't change or that we're not good enough or that, it will never happen for us. And so we really have to guard against allowing ourselves to give meaning or create a narrative around hitting this point that is not empowering. Because if we can just remind ourselves, this is such a human condition, and that when you hit this edge, you are on the precipice of a major breakthrough. And so when things feel darkest and when things start to feel like they go into regression or it feels like all hope is lost, that is the moment that you know that you are literally learning to create space and capacity for a new frequency and an elevated identity in your system. So, if we can change the narrative from it being a setback to more of a breakthrough and be able to be aware of ourselves, stay present in our body, and refuse to quit, we will be able to then quantum leap our lives and move to the next level. Because the thing about it is that this growth edge, this upper limit is just the first layer. There are many upper limits that we all have. And so we are going to bump up against this time and time again on any transformation or realignment journey. We just start to tell ourselves that it's normal and that, we affirm that we are amazing in this moment, in the in between. That's when we are at our strongest. That's where we really shine because we know that that discomfort actually means that this is working and that we are elevating our consciousness and that our wildest dreams and this new version of ourselves is literally on the other side of being able to get comfortable with this discomfort.